The 2022 Fischer Random World Championship just started, and today I'll be showing the game between Nodirbek Abdusattorov and Nepomniachtchi from their first match of the tournament. So, if you're wondering what Fischer Random Chess is, it's basically a variation of chess invented by the former world champion Bobby Fischer. It employs the same board and pieces as classical chess, but the starting position of the pieces on the player's first ranks is randomized. Basically, the point of Fischer Random is that players need to rely more on their skill and creativity rather than just memorizing opening theory. So this is the starting position that we had for this round. Basically, note that the h-pawn, the h2 pawn, and the h7 pawn in this position are undefended. Another thing to note is that the queen and the light squared bishop have sort of swapped places, as well as the rook and the knight on the king side, as you can see on both sides, obviously. And basically here, one of the things that was noted by Grandmaster Jeffrey Zhang on the commentary team for Chess.com was that White can pretty easily get some Ruy Lopez set up if you go e4, e5, and something like c3, bishop c2, knight g3, and d4, and castling kingside. Maybe this will be easier to show without all these arrows. Like, you can sort of get this Ruy Lopez structure where the knight sort of maneuvers to g3 in the Ruy Lopez sometimes, via knight d2, knight f1 to g3. So if you can sort of imagine, like, if White can play e4, d4, c3, bishop c2, knight g3, and then get the queen out of the way and castle short, you can get something that kind of looks like a Ruy Lopez. But anyway, in the game, White played the move d4. Black responded with d5. White went knight g3, and Black played f5. e3 was played, and Black played e6. So here, Nepomniachtchi sort of put his pawns on these light squares with this little triangle setup. And note that when you put your pawns on light squares, you sort of leave the dark squares surrounding this position very weak, and this actually became very important in this game. So here, White played c4, Black played c6, so once again, another pawn on a light square, c6, d5, e6, and f5. White played knight c3, knight d7, and bishop d2. Black played knight g6, bishop c2, and here, Jan went knight h4, f3 was played, and g5. So the point of g5 is that Black is trying to expand on the king side in this position. Note that Black's rook is already on g8 because that was part of the starting position. So going g4 and opening up the g file potentially could be a plan for Black. However, it seems like this plan is ill-advised at the moment due to the fact that White can counteract this by opening up the center, and Black's king is still stuck in the center while White's king is free to castle long whenever he wants. So basically, one of the things that Nepomniachtchi should have done here is look to get his king castled before opening up the position. White here played castles long, Black played knight b6, c takes d5, e takes d5, and e4. So this is like what I was talking about earlier. Basically, White is opening up the center, and because Black's king is still on e8, this is a huge problem. So here, Black played f4, and White took on d5 with the pawn. After e takes d5, Black accepted this sacrifice of a piece by taking on g3. White played rook e1 check, king d7, so now forcing the king to move, and White simply took back on g3 with the pawn. Knight f5 was played, and White played d takes c6. Black played b takes c6, and note here that White only has 2 pawns for the piece. However, because Black's king is still in the center and White is ready to attack it and has all their pieces pretty much developed with just the queen needed to be moved to d3, this position is very good for White. Here, White actually opened up the center more with the move d5, which was very strong because if you take it with either the pawn or the knight, so if you play c takes d5 or knight takes d5, you're basically opening up a ton of possibilities for White to infiltrate with the queen. And because the king is on d7, it's going to be super weak. So after d5, Black did not take the pawn. Black played bishop b7 instead. In fact, here, c5 might have been a better move to just close up the position, but bishop b7 seemed natural enough because you defend the c6 pawn with the bishop, and you try and develop to get the king to safety. After bishop b7, White played queen d3, so now you're attacking this f5 knight. Black played knight d6. White played knight e4 here, trying to remove some of the pieces that are in front of Black's king, which would just make the king weaker and lead to just a devastating attack where White will probably get checkmate or win a ton of material. So after knight e4, black played the move knight takes d5. And here, Nodirbek played the very simple but extremely effective move knight takes d6. After knight takes d6, the point is if you take with the king on d6, white can play the move bishop b4 check. And because we have a sort of skewer here, and black cannot take the bishop on b4 due to this pin, black probably has to play c5. And here, white can sack another piece by playing bishop takes c5, king takes c5, and the nice move rook e6. Sort of cutting off the king from going back to the 6th rank. And here, some sample lines that show how dangerous this is for black include, let's say, like rook g6. After rook g6, white can play queen a3 check, knight b4 to block, queen c3, king b5, a4, king a5, and rook e5 check. After rook e5, if black goes king to b6, he's already getting mated with the move a5, and then queen c4. So after this, black can instead play the move bishop d5. But after bishop d5, rook takes d5 can be played because you can't take back because of the pin. After rook takes d5, black can play king b6, rook b5 check, king a6, and just pick up this knight. And here, white has a material advantage and a crushing attack, so it's not even possible for black to defend this. Some other interesting ideas after rook e6 could be like, instead of rook g6, black can play bishop c6 to try and get their king back to the 6th rank. Here, white can play rook d1. The point is, if you go back to b6, you can take on d5 because of this pin. So instead of that, black can play something like queen f7, but that just allows queen d4 check, king b5, bishop d3 check, king a5, and then queen c5 check. And then after bishop b5, you just take that. So this is extremely dangerous for black after rook e6, despite the fact that white's down 2 pieces. There is really no way to hold this position. But instead of this, black did not take with the king. Black took with the queen on d6. So queen takes d6 was played. And here, Nodirbek played queen takes h7 check. After queen takes h7 check, black blocked with the move bishop e7. Bishop f5 check was played, sort of pushing the king back. Note that if black plays the move king c7, white has bishop a5. And king d8 was played in the game, and bishop a5 was played anyway. And here, Nepomniachtchi actually resigned the game, because if you block with knight b6, well, first you can just take on g8 here, but you can also pin the queen to the king. Same story with knight c7. I mean, here you just take the rook on g8, and the king really has nowhere to go. If you play king e8, queen takes g8 is just mate on the spot. So here, white is totally winning, and after bishop a5 check, black resigned. This was a stellar victory for Nodirbek Abdusattorov because he's only 18 years old and already beating some of the world's best players. I really look forward to analyzing his games in this tournament as well as other tournaments where they're just playing strictly classical chess. But that's it for this video. So if you guys enjoyed it, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.